Thank you, Chaplain Ralph. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the posting of our colors will be posted by Albuquerque High School's Color Guard, and our nation's anthem will be sung by Miss Tamara Aragon. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand for the posting of colors?
Color guard, halt. Left, face. Present colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Forward, march.
You may be seated. Thank you, Albuquerque High School, and thank you, Miss Tamara Aragon. At this time, I would like to recognize the generosity of our sponsors. Without our sponsors, none of this is possible. Our sponsors for today's luncheon are CS3 International. Thank you, Stephen Chavez. UNM Cancer Center. Thank you, Dr. Cheryl Willman. Wells Fargo Bank. Thank you, Jennifer. I see Jennifer Reardon. The Albuquerque Convention Center. Thank you to Jose Garcia. And a special thank you to our VIPs who are present with us this afternoon. With us today, of course, the Honorable Mayor Richard J. Berry, First Lady Maria and their lovely family, City Councilors Isaac Benton, Diane Gibson, Dan Lewis, Clarissa Pena, Brad Winter, and Miss Trudy Jones. Representing U.S. Congressman Ben Ray Lujan, Patrick Duran, Albuquerque Police Department Chief Eden Gordon, Albuquerque Fire Department Chief David Downey. With us today are several CEOs of companies and economic development and community organizations. We also have several City of Albuquerque directors and departments represented. Thank you all for being with us today. At this time, I would like to introduce Hakeem Bellamy, Albuquerque's inaugural Poet Laureate in 2012 and 2014. Hakeem is a national and regional poetry slam champion and holds 3 consecutive collegiate poetry slam titles at the University of New Mexico. His poetry has been published across the globe. Hakeem has been recognized in numerous places, The list goes on and on. Bellamy holds an MA in Communications from the University of New Mexico, and I bet Hakeem would say he's most proud to be a father. Hakeem, please join me on stage.
I didn't need the box. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a privilege to be here with you today. I want to thank the mayor. It's been a privilege to work in the mayor's office as well. The poem I've brought to share with you today was actually catalyzed by some of the work that the mayor's office does with the Living Cities grant. So I want to thank Robin Brule for initially having me offering me the opportunity to produce a poem for that initiative, and I'm honored that it still speaks to some of the work that we get to do in the mayor's office on a day-to-day basis, especially in giving opportunities to immigrant entrepreneurs and some of our most vulnerable populations in the city. So I appreciate the opportunity to be able to write this poem, and I'm humbled to share it with you today. Thank you, Cynthia and Mr. Romero, for offering me that opportunity. It is called City Alive, and you may have it in your program, or so I'm told. There's a city inside of me where table linens and extra place settings constitute a meeting, where the open invitations have been sent and the table extenders are always met with open arms and extra chairs, where plain talk poetry is on the menu, where the boardroom is in the kitchen, where people, politics, profit, and promise all sit at the same dining room table, where everyone waits for everyone else to get served before they eat. There's a city inside of me where innovation is a survival skill that we used to call making lemonade, and long before that referred to as adobe, acequias, swamp coolers, and cliff dwellings, where people feel part of something, where everyone is part owner of the success, and trial and error is just another part of the rent, where we face tough problems, but we're tougher. There's a city inside of me where tech has always been the new frontier and horsepower has always meant corrales, where we have a credit history of handshakes and good words, where we have access to cowboy capital and call it courage, where cybersecurity means logging off a little more often, where we know solitude is restorative, individualism is still rugged, but collaboration is required, our impact, collective, our coalitions, collateral. There's a city inside of me where job means dream instead of drudge in any language, where opportunity is a verb, not a noun, where everyone is fluent in lingua franca, where learning is a loop, not a line, where unusual suspects means unusual conversations, meaning innovations from people who don't make a living talking about innovations, meaning people making a living. Because we know the root word of business is busy, so we go to their place of business to talk about better business, where solutions aren't found, they're invented, where people pitch in and leaders listen, where the right answer is always asking the right questions, where the only thing we fix is our ears. There's a city inside of me as resourceful as deep dives in short water that holds meet and greets at the intersection of private capital and public good, where the root word of entrepreneur is enter, where all doors lead to access, where all doors lead to success, where we unhide systems, where the government's job is more than government jobs, where we lay hands on government so it can walk again, amen, so it can run again, hallelujah, where listen, learn, adapt, and get back is not a slogan, it's a program, where awesome programs are no substitute for awesome government, where everything is awesome. And there's still not enough of it. In the city inside me, we are disrupting this. We know there's enough to go around. For a city with heart this size, economic mobility is going to need more than a driver and a wheel. It's going to need an entire steering table to get this planet off the ground, where those who need help most teach us how to help best, where we don't care who takes credit, but care who gives it, where we are all assuming the inherent risk of our future. There's a city inside of me that bleeds red and lives green, where the blueness in our arteries speaks to our air and water quality. That city starts with a capital A, and that A stands for all of us. There's a city inside me where everything is a lab, where we are incubating business as unusual, where microbiology meets microenterprise for the first time and they realize that they're related, where this potluck family reunion will have us up around these 5 tables all night, where everybody is welcome and there is no turn-down service for linens, banks, nor bright ideas, where everyone at this table would give their right arm to be the city we believe we can be. And with all those arms, we will piece, paste, and parcel together the most beautiful, cute creature the world has ever known. There's a city inside of me, and it's alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Hakeem. I swear that man's words are anointed. It gives me the chills every time I hear him speak. Thank you again. At this time, it is my privilege to introduce our president and CEO of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Alex O. Romero.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is that working sound-wise okay? All right. So Hakeem, I get to follow you, and every time I do that, it's I want to put my hands up and speak loud and do what you do because you do it so well. Thank you once again. An amazing message, and we appreciate it very much. Mayor Berry, thank you for the opportunity to host this year's State of Our City address. Maria, thank you for being here with us as well. And I got to visit with Mr. and Mrs. Berry. We appreciate you being here. And also Mr. and Mrs. Medina, thank you for joining us at our table here today. I have the privilege earlier this year to meet some of the executives from Emera, from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, and they're here today. So I want to say hi to Chris and Ray. Thank you for joining us here today. And equally as important, I'll tell you what, we met almost a year ago, and I got to tell you, you've done so much already, and we're so grateful for you selecting New Mexico, selecting Albuquerque. We appreciate your investment in our wonderful state. Thank you. And to our city councilors, I want to thank you all for your commitment, for your hard work as you support this amazing city. And you have these long meetings, and I applaud everything that you do. And I want you to know how grateful this community is for all the work that you do. Thank you. We have several board members from the Albuquerque Hispano present here today. Want to have you all wave. And Steve Schroeder, I didn't see Steve, but if you're out there, Steve is our outgoing chair. He's right here. And Steve, thank you for your work this past year as chairman of the board. We appreciate all the things that you've done, and we're extremely grateful. Our new chair as we move into this coming year is a Bareilles native, Rudy Becerra. Rudy is the Senior Vice President for Latin Affairs for Coca-Cola North America. So we're really pleased to have Rudy serve as our chair. He's been one of our board members for quite some time, but we look forward to working with Rudy. He's obviously in Atlanta today. Mayor, I'm going to take a couple of minutes to talk about some of the work that the business community did as we, over this past year, as we celebrated and tried to figure out and identify all the wonderful things about Albuquerque. We call it Discovering Albuquerque's Why. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but before I do, I wanted to acknowledge some of your accomplishments as it relates especially to the work that you do with our chamber. And so we have the privilege of working with your team, and you know, I was thinking back about the very beginning when, actually before you took office, and I remember you came by the chamber and you said, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. We had the opportunity of working with you in the legislature, but you came over and you said, hey, how can I be part of the things that you do, the wonderful things that you do? And I got to tell you, that was back then, and I want to tell you how much we, the Chamber, appreciate the fact that you have been inclusive. It was not that meeting, but it was a combination of meetings thereafter, year after year, where you have been including this chamber, and we appreciate that very much. One of the things that comes to mind in those early days, you and the City Council got together and you drafted an ordinance which led to the creation of the Small Business Regulatory Commission. And that commission is in place today. The commission meets every month. It is, the commissioners are small business owners, and what they do is they get to vet anything coming before the City Council or any proposed changes in legislation. Anything that is going to affect their business gets to be heard first with the Small Business Regulatory Commission. And so to the City Council and to you, Mr. Mayor, that's made a huge difference, and we appreciate that very much. Also, from an economic development standpoint, we thank you, and I see Gary here, and Gary's everywhere. But we thank you for your focus on entrepreneurs, and especially with the work on startups and with startups in the technology sector. It's already made a huge difference, and we appreciate that. Also, as the Hispano Chamber of Commerce, we've had the opportunity to work with your team and, as was mentioned earlier, the Albuquerque Living Cities Integration Initiative on meaningful efforts focused around job creation, economic mobility through innovation and entrepreneurship. It's made a big difference, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One of those is a program that we have at the Chamber called Emprendedores. It is a program that teaches small business concepts to Spanish-speaking participants, and I'll tell you, the results have been huge. These are entrepreneurs that are starting businesses right here in Albuquerque, totally passionate about the work that they do, and so we appreciate that. Another example is our partnership with Cultivating Coders, where we deliver bilingual coding boot camps to disadvantaged, unemployed, underemployed citizens with limited English proficiency. That too has been a huge success. And so, Mayor, with your support, we've been able to redefine how we collaborate across sectors as we craft meaningful services through strategic partnerships. Thank you for that. In the end, Albuquerque becomes an even more desirable and accessible place to live, to work, and to prosper. And we're thankful for all of those opportunities. Mayor, another program that has been a huge success is Albuquerque's Heading Home program, addressing homelessness. That's received national recognition, and we applaud your efforts on that. The list goes on and on, a balanced budget, job growth for many months, all of those things in our wonderful city that we appreciate so much. And lastly, I just want to mention that, working through issues around our police department has not been easy, Mr. Mayor, we know that. Cities all over the country are going through similar issues. I know one thing, though, your commitment to our police officers and your commitment to addressing tough issues has made a big difference, and we appreciate your leadership in that regard. At the end of the day, we all honor and we respect our police officers, and we are grateful for their service to our community. Thank you all. Appreciate it. So I see where our slide is up there, Rich and the Extraordinary Albuquerque. So 1 year ago, the business community started working together, and we said, you know what, we're tired of all the negative stuff. Albuquerque is such a beautiful place. There are so many amazing things going on in this city. And so we started working on Albuquerque's why, and that is, what are those good things, those very positive things about Albuquerque that we love about our great city? Over this past year, we held 3 separate brainstorming sessions And we got community leaders together, many of you in this room, and we started talking about what it is that makes Albuquerque great. It was a pretty extensive process, and we had a leader named Dr. Gary Sanchez, who does work in discovering one's why. And I won't go into all the details, but at the end of all of that work, the collective voice of the community was heard, and together we crafted this tagline. We need our slide back up there. The tagline you see on the screen there, rich in the extraordinary. So when you think about Albuquerque and you think about the things that you love about Albuquerque, you have your own things that you consider to be rich about this wonderful city that we live in. And so they all flow up into this tagline of rich in the extraordinary. The business community believes that this theme embraces all that is great about Albuquerque, and that it complements themes that are currently used by other business organizations. So this is not intended to replace anything. It is intended to capture all of those rich things about Albuquerque. And so as I was, I don't see Dr. Willman, but she was going to be here, and she may be here, I don't know. But I was thinking about the fact that she was recently honored by Vice President Biden at the White House, and was later recognized this year for her work in cancer research. You may have seen her on ABC's Nightly News. And I was thinking, and I told her the other day, I said, Dr. Willman, you are an example of what we talk about in rich in the extraordinary. Her work, the work that's done here at the Cancer Center, is known worldwide, and it's happening right here in our great city. So I wanted to give her a shout out. And Mayor, I also want to thank you for your help in supporting our convention and tourism client, the Matthews family, seated right here. If you all would, in fact, please stand. So the Matthews family hosts the Gathering of Nations, done this for 30 years in our community. It's the second largest event next to the International Balloon Fiesta. And I wanted to recognize them because they have opted to stay in Albuquerque, and they moved to the expo. So they have a big plan for this April as they unveil their first event of the powwow in their new home at the expo. Another great example of rich in the extraordinary. Thank you for all of you, your work. So needless to say, our annual gala, which will have an additional 1,300 people to the 600 people that are already here today. We look forward to seeing you. We'll be celebrating Albuquerque. We'll be celebrating Albuquerque Rich in the Extraordinary on February the 11th, Saturday. So we want you all to be here, and we appreciate that very much. It'll be our 42nd annual gala. And so, Mayor, on behalf of the Albuquerque Hispano Chamber of Commerce, thank you for all you do for our great city. And ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mayor Richard J. Berry.
Appreciate the kind words. Thanks. Thank you. How's everybody? Let me get adjusted here. Well, thank you so much, Alex. And thank you, everybody, for taking time to be here today for what is now my 7th State of the City address for this beautiful city that we call home. I really appreciate, I actually deeply appreciate, Alex, the Hispano Chamber and what you do in our city. There's no question that you guys deserved and earned that National Hispano Chamber of the Year award last year nationally. So once again, as a mayor, congratulations for that. A day or so ago, Alex and I started putting pencil to paper. I called him, I said, how many jobs does the Hispano Chamber represent through its membership in the city of Albuquerque? The answer is 93,000 jobs. So you in this room are the job creators. You lead us economically, yes. You lead us culturally, much appreciated because we are a very special place culturally. And I just really commend the great work that you're doing. And this collective voice that you have put together, Alex, and through Gary Sanchez. I've known Gary for 30 years, Dr. Sanchez, and your team at the Chamber, Rich and the Extraordinary, I think speaks volumes, and it embraces all that is absolutely great about the city of Albuquerque. And it complements all of these other efforts that we have going on in the city of Albuquerque. And I'm going to talk about teamwork a lot today, and this is just another example of that. And I'll tell you why it's so important, because one of the lessons learned as a mayor is that you better sing your own song because nobody else is going to sing it for you. And I've talked to mayors around the country, and I think every one of us would say that that is true. So this is a great way to do that. So Alex, please, let's recognize Alex for his leadership, and the Hispano Chamber, the Board of Directors, thank you so much. I also want to thank our counselors. I know we have Councilor Jones with us today in Benton. I think Councilor Gibson is here, as well as Councilor Lewis, Councilor Pena, and our Secretary of State, Councilor Winter, is also here. I want to personally extend a thank you from me and my family to our counselors. We have been able to do things in Albuquerque because we have been able to work together. And working together and cooperation isn't one of those things that you commonly talk about when it comes to government, but we have proven that it absolutely can happen in the city of Albuquerque, and that's why we're better off for it. So to our counselors and to my friends, I say thank you. I also want to thank my team. I think I have one of the best teams in government. We have your city, that you send your tax dollars in to support, has 22 directors. We have almost 6,000 dedicated staff at the city of Albuquerque, from firefighters to police officers to the folks that come up and pick up your trash in the morning. And they get out there every day and they do everything they can to help make your life better. So please, could we give them a round of applause as well? And as humbled and grateful as I am to be your mayor, I'm even more blessed to spend each day alongside your First Lady, Maria. Maria, I appreciate you, your love, your support, and thank you, honey. I love you. And I'm also thankful to we have all four of our parents here. We are so blessed to have our parents, and Ed and Carlotta, Mom and Dad, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Well, we're all here today because we love our city. We care about this beautiful place that we call home. And we know Albuquerque isn't perfect. There's not a city in the world that is perfect. But it's our city. It's our city. And we're proud of it, and we're proud of the people who live here, who work here, who raise their families here. You may be surprised to know that we're the 32nd largest city in America now. That makes us a bigger American city than Atlanta, Kansas City, Minneapolis, Pittsburgh, St. Louis. I tell people that and they're surprised. And that's good news. It's good news to be a big city in America because that's where people and ideas and perspectives and cultures collide, and we have those in abundance here. Cities are dynamic places, and through dynamic places you create unique opportunities. But being part of a big American city means you also face big city challenges. So the big question today at the state of the city is, what is the state of our city? And I'm going to affirm to you today that the state of our city is strong. Not because we don't face challenges, but because we face those challenges. We do not back down. And we use those challenges as a launching pad for opportunities to make this beautiful and great city even better. And the 600 of you here today can attest that we do it together. And now cities around the country, and even some cities around the world, are taking our lead as a community and how they deal with urban challenges in their towns. You know, when I ran for mayor, I was careful not to promise a city without challenges, and we'll be in a mayor's race next year. Beware the candidate that says they can deliver that, because that can never happen in any city. But I absolutely promised that we wouldn't back away from those challenges, and we haven't. Instead, we promised that we would innovate and take new approaches, and I believe that we have, to make our city better. Not perfect, but better. More responsive, more caring, more connected, and smarter. So what I can report on today are 5 key indicators that I think speak volumes to why our city is strong. First, number 1, We are a more efficient and transparent city. We're fiscally stable and we're technologically advanced. Number 2, we're an innovative city with a growing economy, with the foundations of a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. Third, we're a compassionate city, creating better lives for the homeless and our friends and folks in our city living with mental health issues. And fourth, we are a more connected and more attractive city with a stronger infrastructure and an improved quality of life. And last, we are a responsive city. We are improving in the face of evolving challenges nationally and locally with crime and policing. So I want to talk a little bit about how we got here and how we're going to sprint through the finish line. I'm a track and field guy, so I talked to my team. We're going to sprint through the finish line. But I have to go back 7 years, and we have to start talking about how we set this foundation, because we want your next mayor to succeed, because we want our city to succeed. So we had to start by getting the fundamentals right. If you go back and think in time, when we took over, we had about a $90 million plus shortfall fiscally in the city of Albuquerque, the largest in our city's history. The city hadn't turned in a financial audit on time in years. Government wasn't as transparent locally or even nationally as it is today, and the public had less access to information about how your tax dollars were being spent. And frankly, technology and productivity in city government wasn't really at the forefront of day-to-day operations. Lots of good things were happening, but that wasn't one of them. As a business person like you, I knew we had to fundamentally change our organization. We had to invest in our valuable employees. And while I recognize, and I was told when I ran, that there are differences between business and government, there's no reason that certain business principles that you and I apply every day can't be taken into business. Like number 1, you can't spend more than you make. So we worked hard. We worked with our city councilors on a bipartisan basis, and we closed that initial budget shortfall. And we did it without sacrificing essential city services, without layoffs, without raising your taxes. Our budget growth now over the last 7 years has been under inflation or at inflation, so we've kept government at a size that we can afford. And we've been able to provide exceptional service to you as a community with about 3% less employees at the city than we had 7 years ago. Why? Because we've had to make ends meet. We increased our reserves, and we've been able to keep our AAA bond rating at the city of Albuquerque. Even as we've seen our friends at the state see their slip because of the oil crash in New Mexico, we've been able to keep ours strong. And we're looking forward to oil coming back so our friends at the state have a better time budgeting. And for the first time in 12 years this year, we actually turned our city audit in on time. And we had about 50% reduction in the findings in our audit. And that's a testament to some of those 6,000 employees that I talked about. But we've also invested in our valuable employees. So we cut pay the first year because we had to, not to lay people off. But since then, we've been able to give a raise of about 9% to our firefighters and a little less than 20% to our police officers, even during one of the most difficult fiscal times since the Great Depression. We started a program called ESA, Efficiency, Stewardship, and Accountability, that has saved you over $20 million because your city employees stepped up and they found ways to be more efficient. And a lot of those savings are recurring year over year. We're making also significant investments in technology to try to make your city government more efficient. We're improving productivity, we're increasing our business friendliness, and we're making our city more transparent. Almost all of our major business components by the time I leave office will be fully digitized. And we put into place expanded electronic submission and simultaneous reviews for construction plans. With our new system, you'll now be able to apply, submit, upload, track, research, register, and pay for city services through your cell phone or through your computer. That applies to trade permits, construction permits, business registrations, scheduling your inspections, and searching for violations, whatever you want to do online. And we just rolled out what I think is the premier transparency website in the country recently. It's called Next Request, and it creates improved public access to the city's checkbook and all of our records. In case you have some free time at night, it's all on there. You just let us know, and we'll get you more information than you even need. So technology is certainly opening government to the people, and I think that's why I'm really proud of the administration. We received an A+ rating from Sunshine Review 3 years in a row. And we've actually even been written up in The Economist magazine as one of the leaders in transparency as a city. Now, the title of that article was transparency or colonoscopy. So I have to take that to mean that we're pretty transparent. But that doesn't happen by accident. It happens intentionally, and we're going to continue working on that. And today, I am proud to announce that Albuquerque has just passed San Francisco. We passed Denver and Louisville, jumping to 6th place on the list of our nation's 10 most technologically advanced cities. And that's awesome. So this next year, you're going to hear me talk about what we're trying to do to help our next mayor succeed. And this is one of them, to help our next mayor take advantage of future technologies that we don't even know about yet. Things are changing so quickly. We want that foundation, so we want to take a lead and then allow them to launch in the next administration of all the great new things that will be coming our way. And of course, maintaining our government's long-term fiscal health requires that we create conditions for economic growth, which brings me to our second key indicator. We are an innovative city with a growing economy, and we are becoming a new thriving home for startups. The Hispano Chamber, I want to say again, is right at the center of that. Economically, we've said we need to do two things better at least. Intentionally build an environment for innovation in order to turn ideas formulated right here at UNM, Sandia, at AFRL, into new forward-thinking companies and jobs right here in our city right now. And that is happening right now. And secondly, we need to provide a stronger workforce to Albuquerque employers like yourselves and connect students to job opportunities and to mentorship. It's about innovation, it's about workforce development, and it's about a more thriving ecosystem. We've gone from 0 accelerators and startup incubators in Albuquerque to 6 in the last couple of years, thanks to Gary O and his team and everybody at the city and our private partners. At Innovate ABQ, Bob Frank's vision. Construction is underway on the $35 million UNM Rainforest building, and Albuquerque's downtown is well positioned, I believe, to become a vibrant place for entrepreneurs, creatives, inventors, students to live, work, and collide. And I know that you recently read that we didn't quite get everything we needed on a vote at the county on the IRB for the First and Central project, but I'm happy to report to you today that the city and the developer have been working diligently in the last couple of weeks. We have both stepped up. We have both put additional resources in to make that catalytic investment in our downtown a reality, and we should be breaking ground soon. A special thanks to Commissioners Talbert and Johnson, who really carried the water on that project at the county. I want to thank them in particular. So this momentum in downtown, I think, is contagious. Right now, if you calculate it, we have over $150 million worth of new buildings, renovations, and projects that are either recently completed, like the Convention Center, or under construction, like the Rainforest Building, or planned, like First and Central. And of course, we have the great grocery store and the Imperial Building downtown. And that's just between Old Town, with Jim Long's investment, with that beautiful hotel he's building, and right where I'm standing today with Innovation District right behind me here. So that's great news for the city of Albuquerque, and it's also contagious in a way that is bringing our partners to the table. And this is where I want to especially thank our friends from New Mexico Gas Company and their parent company, Mera, who today I'm announcing are going to donate $500,000 to the citizens of Albuquerque to help create a more vibrant downtown and to help our small businesses up and down the Central Corridor. That is a massive investment, and I want to say thank you for that. Thanks for believing in Albuquerque. Thanks for your investment. Thanks for believing in New Mexico. We appreciate you very much. And I am confident also that very soon we're going to be working with CNM to open up a makerspace at Innovate ABQ. So we couldn't do any of this without our partners, and CNM has been a tremendous partner along with UNM, Lucenda Credit Union, all the people who have invested downtown. So we appreciate all of our partners. So please give them a nice round of applause. So at the same time that we're investing in startups and a bold economic future, we're utilizing two different programs to build a stronger workforce right now in the city of Albuquerque and create better opportunities for our students and our young folks in particular to move into today's workforce. So I want to take an updated look at Running Start for Careers, and I know you know about it because a number of your member companies have been instrumental to this program. Associated Builders and Contractors, Nusenda, Heritage Hotels and Resorts, UNM Hospitals, UPublic, Presbyterian Health Services are all members of the Hispano Chamber. They are all working with my administration on this program. This program, Running Start for Careers, has been recognized by Harvard University. It's been recognized by the President of the United States. And cities around the country now are asking me how they can replicate this in their communities. I want to show you about a 4-minute video on this because it is an extraordinary opportunity for our future in the city of Albuquerque. I think one of the really beautiful things about Running Start for Careers, it was born from the students. This came from a simple question that I asked as a state legislator to some 16-year-olds. What is it that you need? How could you be more engaged in high school? Looks like you've been doing a little painting.
Yeah. My family is proud of me for doing this, and they want me to have a good career, and they want me to do better for myself, better than they did for themselves. Because honestly, construction pays good, and I don't want to see my family struggle anymore.
I definitely want to, finish my college career and all that stuff, and I'm hoping to become a civil engineer. I'm kind of wanting to graduate early, get sort of like a head start on everything that I'm planning to do, because, time runs out and you feel kind of like stuck. My dad has taught me a lot with having to be independent and everything. He's taught me how to drive a tractor since I was 7. So since he works in construction, he has side jobs and everything, so I'd go help him paint the lines of a parking lot or move around the asphalt. As long as you're learning and as long as you're doing what you like, then it's all worth it.
What really came out of that conversation was an ambition. These students wanted to be good at something. They wanted to get their high school diploma in one hand, but they wanted to learn from an expert. So all these things came together, and I started looking at the state law in New Mexico, and it did not allow industry experts to go into the classroom and teach for credit. So we went about the business of actually changing the law in New Mexico. So now, if you're a plumber, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a physician, if you're a nurse, if you're in the hospitality business, if you're in the financial business, you can now go into the classroom and teach. And because we team up with CNM, you're now teaching for dual credit.
This brings together government and industry and business and educators and puts us all on the same page in terms of how do we help students actually do the things that they love, and how do we make sure that they are able to be in a situation where they get the job of their dreams.
The laboratory tends to be the forgotten part of medicine. And so for these students to come in and see the importance and the amount of work that's done, I think that they can see the significance, and some of them really want to come join the team.
20, 40, 60, 82, 20, 40, 60.
Really what our goal is ultimately at Nusenda is to be a partner with the community. And since 2013, we've had over 100 students apply for the program and successfully complete it. And of those, we've had 33 become interns, and 5 of those are still working with Nusenda.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day, Stanley.
I think the heart of Running Start for Careers is Albuquerque. I've seen most of these students stay right here in this town. So why not invest in them?
Well, it's just that you actually get to work. You're not just sitting in a classroom all day, and hopefully that stays with me for a very long time, because I don't really want to forget how to do any of this, because it's so helpful.
So as a mayor, once you can get the 3 key components engaged, which is your school system, your 2-year college, and your business community, then go talk to your students. Ask them what they need. And if you're like Albuquerque, New Mexico, the students are going to describe almost to a T Running Start for Careers, and you're going to be off and running on a great program that will not only help keep your kids in high school and increase your graduation rate, but also make your city more viable from a workforce development standpoint. It's a true win for everybody. in the city of Albuquerque, in the state of New Mexico. Well, our graduation rate for these 1,000 students is 98%, on-time graduation rate.
I think one of the really beautiful things about running Start for Careers, it was born from the students.
60% of our
This came from a
participants are
simple
young
question
women,
that I asked as a state
86%
legislator to some
are
16-year-olds, what is it that you need?
And we are in
How could
30
you
high
be more
schools
engaged
now
in high
the city
school?
of Albuquerque.
Looks like you've been doing a
This
little
is your
painting.
future workforce. These are the kids that we want to get through school to get on to college. And this is one of the things we're doing to try to work with Mission Graduate. And we've added about 12,000 people in Albuquerque in the metro through Mission Graduate, which is a United Way campaign, and a lot of us are involved in that in the city of Albuquerque over the last couple of years. So it's a program that's working and is innovative. If you're one of those people that wants to improve your workforce skills, however, and you're maybe out of high school, we want to invite you, and as businesses as well, to look at Talent Albuquerque, which helps gain people certifications that they need to show prospective employers like you that they have the skills to do the job and actually improve productivity in your businesses. We now will test people for free at 35 locations in the city of Albuquerque. In just the last 2 years alone, we've had 14,000 people step up and say, I would like to test my skills, I would like to get better at what I do, and they've taken nearly 42,000 assessments. We are now working with 250 businesses just like yours to go into skills-based hiring. We wanted to do it ourselves as a city before we asked you to do that. We've now hired 622, I believe is the latest number, of people through Talent Albuquerque and skills-based hiring. And I can tell you it has been a remarkable thing at the city. Putting the right people with the right skills in the right job really does make a difference. So I want to invite you today, if you're not engaged with Talent ABQ, it's easy to find. Call our office. We'll get you hooked up. So these are just examples of innovation in the city of Albuquerque, thinking outside the box, taking challenges and moving forward. And all of them again are created by partnerships. Our city councilors are funding these through the budgets when we ask. Thank you again, city councilors, for putting valuable resources into these. Thank you to the Hispano Chamber, to our local business leaders, area companies, all of the companies that you saw on there, all of our elected officials at the state that help us change the law, and everybody. It is working together, and it is paying off. And it's paying off in a couple of metrics. So let me talk about a couple of those metrics economically. So now we've seen 36 months of job growth in our metro. We added about 2,000 jobs in the metro year over year. And of course, our metro is our entire metro, Rio Rancho, about a 4-county region. Median incomes are rising in Albuquerque. Our poverty rate is declining, foreclosures are declining, and our home prices are up. And as we continue to look forward, making smart investments and encouraging rapid innovation are going to be at the forefront. Albuquerque is really becoming a premier location for business startups, and it's my honor to thank a couple of folks here today, I'm not even sure what table they're sitting at, who have made recent commitments to Albuquerque. App City Life and Lisa Abeda are here today. Albuquerque Trolley, Jesse and Mike, you see them running around town. They do a great job, the great ambassadors. Charles Ashley won South by Southwest with Cultivating Coders, making a big difference. Fat Pipe and the Biosciences Center, Stuart Rose and his team. Montech, Monica Hajola, Rural Sourcing Inc. just came to Albuquerque. They took over the building right across from Fire Station 1. They're doing software development and business technology. Scorpios Technology, who we went to Germany with last year, has some of the best chip technology happening in the world right now. And of course, some homegrown local businesses like Slate Street Cafe and Miragatis and everybody that's here today. So they've chosen Albuquerque, just like you've chosen Albuquerque, and that's why we are thriving, and that's why we want to honor all of you job creators today. And just basically, once again, as your mayor, thank you for being the job creators. Our job is to set the table for job creation. You actually create those jobs. So give yourselves a big round of applause for that. We also know that big city social challenges can happen in a big city, but the fact is they seem daunting, but they cannot be ignored. And yes, it is possible to balance your budgets and create jobs and fight crime while also deeply caring for and supporting people in your city in need. So here's our third key indicator, and it's an important one. We are a compassionate city. We are creating better lives for the homeless and individuals living with mental health issues. We cannot simply accept the fact that in Albuquerque, residents live day to day sometimes without a roof over their heads, panhandling for a way of life. They're in and out of emergency rooms, they're struggling for survival on the streets, they have regular run-ins with your police officers. For these folks who are our fellow human beings, it all creates a lack of hope and a feeling that there's no way to make their lives better. So rather than look the other way, we in Albuquerque took innovative approaches. We've now housed 646 individuals and their families through Albuquerque Heading Home. But we also told you it was a smart way to do the right thing, so we've had the University of New Mexico and Dr. Gehring and his team study this, and I can assure you we have saved you $5 million as taxpayers. At the same time, we've housed those 646 people. And once housed, now those people can get stabilized and they can concentrating on making their lives better. They can engage in the dignity of work. And I've met with folks that are homeless and who panhandle, and I've come to believe that they don't want to beg for money many times. There is no dignity in that. Many of them want to work. So we launched There's a Better Way. Many of you have heard about that. It's an innovative approach that's now being touted internationally. It's now being adopted by Chicago, by Denver, multiple cities. I was even on a Skype interview last week with Melbourne, Australia, who wants to take There's a Better Way. And if you're not familiar with it, we go out in the morning through St. Martin's Hospitality Center. We take a van, we pick up folks, we pay them $9 an hour, we give them lunch, and then at the end of the day, we go back to St. Martin's, they get paid cash, and they get invited to engage into programs that may help them thrive. So far, we've provided about 1,200 day jobs. We've connected about 180 people through St. Martin's to some kind of permanent employment opportunities. And we've cleaned about 310 of your city blocks, making our beautiful city even more beautiful. And that equates to about 100,000 pounds of trash and weeds that we've been able to do with that. And it takes leadership to do that. And I want to highlight one of our leaders today, and his name is Michael Garcia, and he's sitting right over here. Mike, you want to stand up just for a second and wave? Just wave for a second. He's 37 years old. Mike's been on his own since he was 12. He's struggled in the past. He's had some substance abuse issues, some mental health issues. He's been working with The Better Way for the past 7 months. We originally picked up Mike downtown where he was panhandling. And Mike, I told him earlier today when I talked to him, I thanked him for his leadership. I want to thank you again, sir, for your leadership. You are making your city, our city, an even better place to be. So thank you for showing folks around Albuquerque and around the country that when you give somebody an opportunity, they make the best of it. Thanks again, Mike. So we started the program with $50,000, believe it or not. Our city councilors allowed us to double it last year. We're going to double it again this year. Again, councilors, you're going to hear me thank our councilors a lot today. I really appreciate that. It's been reported that homelessness in New Mexico is now down 37%, and we're not done yet. HUD tells us by their definition we've been able to end veterans' homelessness in the city of Albuquerque, but once again, I'll meet someone tomorrow that's a vet that's going to be without a home. So that work never ends, and we will keep fighting for that and for our community here. And now we're going to turn our attention as a city, as a community, and really as a nation to the shameful fact that in America, our local jails, not just here in Albuquerque, and our police departments, not just here in Albuquerque, have become the de facto front lines for addressing and treating mental health issues. And that is a shameful fact. So we're working together in Albuquerque to improve our police interactions with those who are suffering with mental health crisis. We're de-escalating situations. We're giving the necessary time to calm things down. Your city, in our budget, we spend about $16 million a year on behavioral health and addiction services, and we're working with the county on its recent mental health treatment efforts. And I want to thank the county for the work that they're doing. So we've successfully advocated for assisted outpatient treatment, which sounds vague, but it's a really important law that passed the legislature last year. And we've just now formed what we call mobile crisis teams. We're partnering with the sheriff's office and our police department. We're taking counselors and mental health professionals out with police and our deputies to scenes where someone is suffering in mental health crisis. It gets treatment to the person on site. Maybe they don't have to go to the emergency room now, and it may reduce the number of arrests for these individuals, and it certainly promotes better outcomes. So I believe that strong cities like ours, we don't regulate, we don't assign anybody to a category of people that can't be reached and who can't have their lives improved. This is a caring city, and these programs are fiscally responsible as well as being compassionate, and I'm just proud of you proud of you and the city of Albuquerque for having a big heart in letting us do that work. So our fourth key indicator for today is the fact that we are a city that is investing in our infrastructure. We're investing in attractions, natural wonders, and our landmarks. And there's no question that we are a more connected and attractive city today with improved infrastructure and better quality of life. Think about some of our major projects. Paseo and I-25, raise your hand if you drive that. Got to believe that's better than it used to be. That's a $100 million project, working with the state, working with the feds, working with you as the taxpayers. We promised that it would attract economic opportunity, and it has. Soon you'll be able to shop at the Cabela's store that's going in right at that intersection. That would not have happened if that transit-oriented development opportunity wasn't there. We'll soon be completing a 50-mile bike loop. Even though it was controversial, we went to the Bosque. We've made the Bosque Trail more accessible, safer, more enjoyable place. If you haven't been on that new Crusher Fine Trail in the Bosque, get your family down there. It's unbelievable. We brought Uber and Lyft an invitation to come to our city while others weren't doing that. That was important. We brought 3 new airlines to the city of Albuquerque, connected ourselves to the East and West Coast. Hopefully next year we'll have some more news. I can't promise anything, but hopefully we're going to bring another airline here to the city. And we're just getting ready to put another $30 million of improvements into your Sunport. And we made $23 million in improvements to Lead and Coal Avenue a couple of years ago. And on our west side, for our friends that live on the west side, we've put in over about $100 million into 76 different projects on the west side to improve your infrastructure. And we've done all of that without raising your taxes. We've been able to do that. And now we have ART, Bus Rapid Transit, coming to Central, bringing world-class transit features to connect our great neighborhoods, our major employment centers, our educational institutions, and fortunately, there's no controversy. So, I get it. I understand it. A project like this is going to cause some disruption, and it's going to affect some of those folks in the construction zone for the next year. But remember, and I want you to tell this to all your friends, Central is always open. You can get to every single shop you want to shop at, every restaurant you want to eat at. It's up to us as a community to get out there. You can get where you're going. And I know change isn't easy. And if it was easy, it probably wouldn't be worth it, quite frankly. And I know we had some city councilors who stepped up and took the heat with us for this, and I want to say thank you to them as well, because I just truly believe, and others outside of the city of Albuquerque believe, this is a world-class project, the best of its kind in America, and it's going to really create enormous opportunities for the city of Albuquerque. So as we look forward to the next year, you can look forward to about $300 million worth of projects going in the built environment in the city of Albuquerque. That's about 3 times the average. These projects take a long time to get on the drawing board, and so we've worked for the last 7 years, and now we're going to launch off of those, once again, without raising your taxes. But of course, quality of life also matters to the citizens of Albuquerque. I think the convention center is a great example. They've now seen, we made the investment, they've seen an uptick in bookings and local events. Councilor Lewis is here. He's really been driving hard on this baseball complex on the west side of Albuquerque. That'll be a $20 million field of dreams, if you will. It was one of the reasons that we were able to track the 2019 Senior Olympic Games. So your next mayor will stand up and invite 10,000 or more people to our city. They'll bring their families and they'll bring their spending power to Albuquerque. We also renovated the rail yards, and last time I checked, we were booked out about a year. If you haven't been down to the market on Sundays, check it out. Check it out for your next event as well. And we've also brought new management team into the Albuquerque Biopark to do a couple of things. First of all, we had the first master plan for the biopark and the zoo part, at least since the 1970s, and we want to make sure that the $250 million that you have decided to invest when you voted for that tax increase is being put to the highest and best use over the next 15 years. Hopefully by the time I leave, you will see the new penguin shell exhibit open up, and that's one of those $300 million in projects next year. And of course, in the back of the room, if you want to check it out on the way out of here, you'll find some renderings for another $4 million that we're going to put into Civic Plaza to put shade structures, a splash fountain, playgrounds, a place for our families to be, a great civic plaza. More inviting, more welcoming. So over the 7 years, or over the 8 years as your mayor, we will have put about $750 million, $750 million into making our city safer, more beautiful, and improving our quality of life. And our last key indicator, I want to move on to that, is an important one. We are a responsive and we are an improving city, especially when it comes to these national issues and local issues of tackling crime and policing. Recently, I don't know if anybody was there, I gave a speech on crime in Albuquerque. Because even though burglaries decreased last year, other categories of crime and property crime went up in our city. In particular, we had a sharp increase in auto thefts. The uptick mirrors what's happening in Bernalillo County, and right now there's many cities across the country who are grappling with this crime increase, and we're going to have to get a handle on it nationally and locally. Crime in Denver is up in every neighborhood in most categories. The murder rate in Austin this year is up 80%. I only say that to give you some context to what's happening around the country. But given the fact that we had historic low crime rates in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, we had to ask ourselves, well, what's changed? Something's different. We know that there have been a number of things that have changed. So instead of just conjecturing and throwing out a lot of political rhetoric, we decided to study it. So we hired Dr. Peter Winograd, a retired UNM professor, to look at the who's and what's and whys to see if we could get a better handle on it. So he quickly ruled out economic conditions because of some of the things I talked about before. Median incomes are up, unemployment has gone down since we took office, etc. He also looked at the judicial system, and there's no question that there have been massive changes in the judicial system over the last couple of years. One of the things that has been grappled with is the McClendon lawsuit, which required our county jail to reduce its number. It's a 20-year-old plus lawsuit, and there have been great efforts put in place to do that. But what has happened, along with some state Supreme Court rulings concerning how bail is set, is that we've had a lot of change in a very short period of time. The changes have led to dramatic reduction in the jail population. In fact, the jail population has been cut by more than half. That means there's about 1,500 people on average more than there was just a couple of years ago on the streets of Albuquerque. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that Dr. Winograd found that there was a correlation between a sharp increase in the jail population and auto theft. And our trend has continued, unfortunately, today. And when we delved deeper, we found that there's at least 114 of those 1,500 people that had been arrested multiple times and released from jail. Some of them had been arrested 7 or 8 times in a given year. So we believe that if we can take a surgical approach, if you will, a micro approach to this, that we can have a big impact on auto thefts in the city of Albuquerque. Nobody, myself included, is advocating putting 1,500 people back in jail. But if we can concentrate on that relatively small number of criminals, I think it's going to make a big difference. And sometimes it could be rehabilitation, and sometimes it just comes down to keeping the bad guys in jail. So we're going to continue discussions on that over the next year. Dr. Winograd also looked at the impact and the size of our police force. As you know, our police force is smaller than it used to be. So given the fact, though, that our historical low crime rates came during a time when the number of officers was falling, it's easy to see why he didn't find a strong relationship with that. But the fact is we have about 850 officers today, and our latest staffing study says we need 1,000. And so that's what we're shooting for. Make no mistake, though, our officers are dedicated, they're working hard, and they're getting the job done. And Chief Eden and his group are out there working. You saw some really good police work happening just in the last couple of days in the city of Albuquerque. And departments around the country, including ours, are going through a time when policing, frankly, has become more dangerous. There's increased levels of scrutiny, and that is driving the number of people that want to apply. But the good news is Chief has some of the largest classes, cadet classes we've seen in a long time. What also happened in New Mexico is there were some other things. So the pension plan got changed to protect its solvency. That drove a lot of our officers to early retirement. And then in my first year in the city of Albuquerque, after 23 years, the state legislature prohibited officers from retiring and returning to work. If that prohibition hadn't been put into effect, I really feel like we would have close to the number of officers that we need. So we had to make adjustments. Chief Eden's worked hard, and what he's done the last couple of years is he's gotten about 13% of our officers more out behind the desks and out into your neighborhoods. And we have a plan to get to 1,000 officers in the city of Albuquerque, but I'm going to ask you in a little bit to help us advocate. We need the help of our legislature to get there. And so does Farmington, and so does other cities around the state of New Mexico. So to combat this, we put a plan together called Act Now, or Attack Crime Together Now, and it's a roadmap for a collaborative response to the entire criminal justice system. Number one, we need to do a better job of sharing data with the court system, the jail, APD, the deputies, and other law enforcement professionals to make sure that the worst of the worst offenders get off of our streets. And we know that good data drives good judicial decision making and it drives good policing. But we're also implementing an aggressive staffing plan. As I talked about earlier, we've been able to, even during tough times, raise officer pay by about 20%. We've implemented longevity pay increases to keep our officers on longer to try to combat those changes in the retirement plans. We are now allowing other officers from around the country to transfer into APD with an $8,000 signing bonus. The union just voted on their new contract, overwhelmingly accepted 12-hour shifts. The officers love that, and that will help us get back more officers on the street as well. But we can't get there alone, and as I talked about before, this return to work legislation, let me just say it. Last year, we had 35 mayors from around the state. We had all 33 county sheriffs supporting that, and we couldn't get it through the Senate. We got it through the House. Your voice matters. The Hispano Chamber has a big voice. Please help us advocate for that. You want this in place for your next mayor. But until we get that in place, we're going to do something else that's unique. We're going to bring in community response specialists. We are going to hire maybe some former officers on contract and others to come in and work with you and your family if you've been robbed or if you've had an auto burglary. They'll come out and they'll take fingerprints, they'll interview witnesses, they'll take reports, basic follow-up work. They're not sworn officers, they don't have a gun, but they'll come to your scene after the scene has been cleared. We think we can free up about $100,000 or 100,000 hours per year of our sworn officers by using these specialists to come out and work with the community, and we think we can better track your case through the system. We also need our judicial system in some cases to be a little bit tougher. We need to revisit that 10-day rule that the Supreme Court put in that both the DA and our chief have said is hindering our ability to keep dangerous folks behind bars. We also need to make sure that and I'm glad that the citizens of Albuquerque and the state of New Mexico voted for the bond changes. Chief Justice Daniels did significant work, and I want to thank him for crafting that bill. That will again help us keep the worst of the worst, because for a while here, this last couple of years, we've been having to let folks out of jail when we felt like they should have been kept in jail. And we're going to be launching a repeat offenders advocate program as well, where we're going to actually hire advocates to go in on your behalf and on our behalf as the city. They'll sit in courtrooms, they'll help judges understand who's in their courtroom that day and make sure that good decisions are being made. But then again, we need help from our friends in the legislature. There's no question that criminals go where laws are weak and punishments are light. And we've seen too many tragedies in New Mexico and Albuquerque over the past year with our children, and we've lost 5 officers in Albuquerque in New Mexico in just the last 2 years. And of course, we need to then, you can't just put people in jail. You got to fight substance abuse. You got to work with folks with mental health issues. But most importantly, and you clapped earlier without even being asked, and I'm going to ask you to clap again here in a minute, it's imperative that you as a community support your police officers. It's always been a tough job, but I think it's more dangerous and it's a harder job today than ever. We are implementing unprecedented police reforms at APD for the good of both our officers and the community. We're making improvements to training, we're making improvements to policies, we're slowing down situations that involve mental health crisis. We've rewritten 37, all of our major policies at APD as part of the settlement agreement with the DOJ, on top of the 60 reforms that we implemented before the settlement agreement. We've led the way nationally when it comes to on-body camera systems, when it comes to crisis intervention training, accountability, and transparency. So what that means is we have less SWAT calls than we used to have. We don't just automatically call the SWAT teams out anymore. And when they do go out, we've only had 29 as of a couple of weeks ago. We've probably had more since then. We slow it down when we get there. We're spending more than 2 hours now on a SWAT call. And this year so far, we are on track to have less officer-involved shootings. Now we know that can change in an instant. And that's not always dependent upon the police officers themselves, as you all know. But this is a public trust relationship. It's enduring, but it's fragile. It can be tenuous at times, but it's absolutely necessary to preserving the functioning of our city to make us and our families safe. So we are reforming, we're improving, we're still a department in transition though. And our community benefits when those officers know that you have their back, when they're confident that they're supported to make judgment calls in a split second when they have to. And I've asked two of our officers to be here today. I'm going to have them stand up here for just a minute, and they exemplify this kind of good work. In May, you may have seen on the news, a man climbed over an overpass security fence above I-40 and threatened to jump. So Officer Brandy Madrid, who's here, Brandy, stand up, arrived on the scene, as well as Officer Candace Bazania. They volunteered to help with the call because they have experience in helping distressed individuals who are at risk of suicide. So Brandy actually recognized the man as someone that she had talked off a bridge just a month ago. They used their crisis intervention training to gain the man's trust and had to battle setbacks as there was active traffic underneath. It took 3 hours of intense communication and conversation in the scorching heat to save that man's life. Officer Madrid credits her crisis intervention training with giving her the tools that she needed to be our hero and his hero that day. And as it turned out, just 2 days later, she again helped save the life of a female who attempted to jump off another city bridge. But acts of heroism like this are so important, and somewhat often we don't see them on these hundreds of thousands of calls that are taken every year. But this is just another commitment to reform for our city, helping better equip our officers, but it's really a testament to the men and women that work alongside of Officer Madrid and Bazania at the Albuquerque Police Department for their community engagement, their belief in the community, and their dedicated work. So thank you, ladies. We appreciate you very much. So as I wrap up today, I want to bring some really interesting and exciting young folks to the stage with me. If my Youth Advisory Council can come up, I want to talk about one of their initiatives. There, I see them there. You're young. Sprint. When I was elected, we didn't have a youth council. And I wanted to get the advice of the young folks in our community as I tried to lead our community. And so we put together a youth council. And they've done some absolutely wonderful work over the years. They've worked on opioid addiction, they've worked on teen pregnancy, they've worked on bullying, they've worked on internet safety and security. This isn't just about building a resume, this is about leading our city, and these young folks have done that. And I want to tell you about what they're working on now, and I just bring them up because I just think they're awesome. I called my youth council in and I said, listen, I want to challenge you to see if we can get the city of Albuquerque to do 1 million acts of kindness. They thought about it and they said yes. So now we have an app, and every one of you can download this. You can tell your kids, you can tell your coworkers about ABQ Kindness. It is a free app where you can log individual acts of kindness, individual acts of grace, and love for your neighbor. They're talking to civic groups, leaders like yourselves, other students and young people. They're going into our school systems because I've asked the youth of our city to lead this compassion agenda. So if you can, look us up and invite them to your next meeting. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of these folks. As we work on all the hard issues, as we work on legislation, as we work on crime bills, as we talk about judges being tougher, as we talk about all these different things, you know what, at the end of the day, if we're just a little kinder to everybody and to each other, that solves a lot of issues. It solves a lot of issues. And I think by making kindness a habit, thinking about it every day, being intentional, pulling out your phone. If you see somebody doing something nice, if somebody lets you into traffic, they let you in front of them at the grocery store if you've got one item and they've got a basket full. If you see a kid talking to the new kid at school, if you see somebody talk to one of your coworkers, if you help them out with a casserole when their spouse had surgery, I don't care what it is. Kindness matters, and these young folks are your leaders on the kindness campaign. So give them a round of applause and support them. Our future matters. And with forward-looking leadership and innovators like these, I'm more confident than ever that Albuquerque's best days are ahead. So as I look forward to my last year, it sounds weird to say that as your mayor, I can't help but reflect back on the past 7 years and what a great honor it has been for me and my family to serve you and to represent this great city. And we are a great city. We're a special place in so many ways. And I know many mayors around the country that wish they had our sense of community, our diversity, our cultural strength, and of course our natural beauty that Albuquerque boasts. And we should also be proud of the things that we're doing right while acknowledging that we're big enough to face big challenges. But we're not done yet. It is full steam ahead, as I said earlier. It will be a sprint to the finish line. $300 million in infrastructure projects to be built, bringing world-class public transit, new and exciting recreational opportunities for our kids and our citizens, a revitalized civic plaza, an improved Sunport, and the beginnings of an incredible $250 million journey to make over our beautiful and beloved biopark. We have a new $400,000 investment from Bloomberg Philanthropies that will help us dig even deeper into repeat offenders and find ways to help them and help our community be safer. We look forward to continued progress on our police reforms and stronger community policing relationships. We look forward to doubling down on our initiatives to help the homeless and those who are struggling for survival. We look forward to training our more students to be part of Albuquerque's workforce and incentivizing high school graduation. We'll work hard to continue to improve your city government. We'll work hard to attract more startups to our city. We'll attract more to our downtown and other parts of our community. I really am confident that we're going to be embarking on a year of progress for Albuquerque and laying a strong foundation for the future so that our next mayor, whoever that is, won't have to spend time remaking government. They can tackle the next wave of exciting changes and challenges that will certainly be coming our way. I'll predict our next mayor might be able to even get the first driverless car on the road in Albuquerque. I mean, what an exciting time that we're going through. And there's no question that we're preparing ourselves well as a community to prosper moving into the future. So I'm fired up, my team's fired up, and we will sprint across the finish line. We will hand off the city, I believe, better than we found it. And at the end of the day, whether it's at work or whether it's at home or whether it's these youth leaders in our community, handing something off better than you found it really, I think, should be the bottom line. So I'm thrilled, I'm honored. Let's have a great next year. And I want to wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday, and a prosperous New Year. God bless you, and may God bless our beautiful city. Thank you. Thanks.